Thanks, cool, man, this is great. Something happens. I start to, without me being aware, I'm starting to move towards the uptight end of the continuum. I go into the world of mind. My grandma starts to say all this stuff to me. And before I know it, in a minute, in an instant, I am crunched up, and that all happens. I was completely unaware that I had any input in this process, that I had any control over this process. Uptight is a literal term. Up means up in the world of mind. So there's 3 different realms of awareness. The first realm of awareness is our surroundings. What I want you guys to do right now is to become aware of light and shadows in the room. Have that be your focus. Good. Now what I want you to do is shift your awareness to the sound of the air conditioning. Notice how before you weren't even aware of it, now it's super loud. So what we're doing here is we're playing with our awareness. And we can shine it in 3 different areas. One was your physical, external, like your immediate environment. Things you can pick up with your sensory receptors, sight, sounds, things in your visual field. The second realm of awareness is what's going on internally. Breathing, sensations, feelings. So let's play with that for a second. Just go ahead and close your eyes for a moment. Drop your awareness inward. And like really check in, do like a body scan. Notice the path of your breath as it comes in, slides in front of that beautiful, pure, uncontaminated heart of hearts of yours in the center of your chest, fills up your belly, and slides right back behind your heart of hearts on the way out. Notice any tension you may feel in your body, if any at all, maybe in your face or your jaws or your forehead. And there's no struggling here, there's no straining, there's nothing for you to figure out, nothing for you to analyze, nothing for you to accomplish. All that's required is some effort. And that effort is for you to guide your spotlight of awareness where you want it to be, which at this moment is on what's going on inside. And keep in mind, guys, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Whatever you're doing is perfect. Now take that spotlight of awareness of yours, which again is firmly rooted in the present moment called now, which you have the ability to control and shine moment to moment, breath to breath. And at this moment, shift it from your body now to your face. Simply noticing any tension that may be present in your face, maybe in your jaws or in your forehead. Now you may notice as we're doing this, as we're playing with our spotlight of awareness, it may want to drift away and go someplace else. Maybe it's drifting away to noises that you're hearing. Maybe it drifts away up into the world of mind, thinking about something you have to do. It's perfectly okay. It's normal, it's natural, it's like rain and sunshine. If and when you notice that, just gently and purposefully and intentionally guide your spotlight of awareness back to where you want it to be, which at this moment is on your face. Noticing the area around your eyes and your eyelids, and particularly your eyes and the weight of your eyelids against your eyes. Take your spotlight of awareness, which again is firmly rooted in the present moment called now, which you have the ability to control and shine where you want it to be, and shift it into the world of mind, and just simply notice what's going on there. And as you go up into the world of mind, remember that your mind belongs to you, you do not belong to it. It's a tool for you to use and to manage. Now take that spotlight of awareness of yours, which again is rooted in the present moment called now, which you have the ability to control and shine where you want it to be, moment to moment and breath to breath, and shift that awareness now back to your face, specifically the area around your eyes and your eyelids, noticing the weight of your eyelids against your eyes. And when you're ready, there's no rush, but when you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes up. This ability to be able to intentionally and purposefully guide our spotlight of awareness where we want it to be is directly correlated with you being really connected with what's true for you, right? You being able to be centered and clear and to check in with yourself. I've also found it's exceptionally helpful with deploying EQ in communication with people. Because there's 2 components to this relationship game. One is the relationship that you have with yourself. The second is we live on a planet in which we interact with other humans. Everything that we have, everything that you have at this moment has been touched by human hands. Everything comes to us through other humans, so we have to interact with other humans, and with other humans comes conflict or miscommunication, things of that nature. But where it begins is it begins with my relationship with myself, and this is a critical component of that, because all the way up to those 100 deals, and what it was creating in my body, because I was doing what Greg was doing, but just doing it every single day. And then what's a yummy, delicious byproduct of that is that level of awareness helps you to be able to connect with people at a higher level, because you can notice things as they're coming up. Yeah, so my ability to be able to deploy that is directly correlated with what we just did. is to be as centered and clear as possible, so that way I can notice things as they're coming up. And then I can share what's true for me as it's coming up. So there's this really interesting misconception. So the misconception that we have is that things happen, and then I have my response or my reaction to those things that happened. And that's how 95% of the population lives their life, right? And so they're constantly doing what? Blaming others, external circumstances, blah, 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 as though others are responsible for where they are in the imaginary continuum. Whose responsibility is where you are in the imaginary continuum? It's mine, bro. So what's actually true is that there's a step in between. Events occur, my response or my reaction, but there's a step in between. The step in between is my opinions or my judgment. So something takes place, I have an opinion or a judgment about what's happening, then I have a response or a reaction. Okay? So if this is accurate, so let's play this out. So something happens, let's say you get a shitty review. What is, and I think, okay, I just respond or I react to that, but what's happening in this step? What's my opinion or my judgment? I'm never gonna get another thing, all this shit's gonna fuck up, blah, blah, blah. And then I have my response or my reaction. What's causing the pain is actually my opinion or my judgment. It's not, right, this is what's causing it. And what's interesting about that is, do you have control over that? Yeah, that's fascinating. But we have, as humans, we have the power, we have this unbelievable kind of divine power, which is to give things meaning. And that meaning can either be empowering or it can be disempowering, right? So in the Bible it says, "And life and death is in the tongue," so I can either build something up with words or I can tear it down with words. But they're saying the same thing. It's right here. It's my opinion or my judgment about what's taking place, not the actual event itself. So what if I told you, your beliefs don't make you a free thinker? The ability to change your beliefs based on new information is what makes you a free thinker. My ability to change my beliefs based on new information. Remember, a belief is just an opinion that you've developed loyalty to over time. It doesn't make it, it's just a belief. It's just an opinion. Usually when I'm over here, what came to the surface is like, yeah, it's the story that I'm telling myself or what my gremlin's telling me that's causing me to be over here. To me, that's jamming your own thumb in your own eye. So let's say you came to me and you were like, hey, my eye hurts. Kirill says, hey, my eye hurts, man. I'm like, okay. I sit him on a couch and we can talk about why he jams his own thumb in his own eye. Like maybe he came from a long line of eye jabbers. Maybe he wanted to suck his thumb as a kid and somebody fucking spanked him, so he came up with a piss poor alternative, which was to jam it in his own eye. Like, that could be interesting, and it could be even insightful. Far less effective and efficient, though, if I can help you to simply notice that it's your fucking thumb that you're jamming in your own eye. Because when you begin to notice that it's your thumb that you're jamming in your own eye, the observer, the witness or the watcher, the one who learned how to walk and talk without any instruction, the one who has a body but doesn't answer to their body, the one who has a name, Kiro, but isn't like, the one who has a body but is not their body, the one who has answers to a name but is not their name, the one who has thoughts but is not the thoughts, the observer, right? So if I asked you to reflect on when you were 7, your body was completely different, but the awareness was there. So the observer, the one who's witnessing and watching this whole thing go down, when you showed that one that it's your own thumb that you're jamming in your own eye, a natural correction takes place. And that's what Rick calls the Zen theory of change, which is that I free myself not by trying, right, to free myself. I don't get out of jail by bending the bars, gnashing my teeth, or blowing it up. I free myself by simply noticing how I am imprisoning myself in the very moment in which I'm doing it. So I had already been studying with Rick for 6 or 7 years. And he's like, hey, there's usually 5 ways, not always, the majority of the time, 5 ways that people jam their own thumb in their own eye. Here are the 5 ways, okay? The first one is you scare yourself. Okay, scare the shit out of yourself, telling yourself a catastrophic story about something that's going to happen in the future. Now, my gremlin's particular brand of magic was that, right? Deploy that on a regular basis. Like, no more. I started to keep a gremlin taming journal. You know what every fucking entry in that journal was? About listings. There's not enough. I've only taken 4. What the fuck? I'm gonna end up broken alone by myself. Like, it was the same fucking thing I'm telling you. For those of you guys, next time we're on a call, I'll show you. I'll pull out I have journals fucking filled with entries. And that was interesting to me because I noticed a pattern. Remember we talked about recognizing patterns? It was the same pattern. And what it's about is underneath is the need for security, right? It was a very strong one. But we scare the shit out of ourselves. And what we do is we go up into the world of mind. It's like there's a movie theater. We go up into the world of mind. It's an empty movie theater. We sit down. Our gremlin sits right next to us and is like, hey, John, here's a really shitty movie. Let's watch it together. And you're like, no. He's like, no, it's fucking great. Yeah, here's some popcorn. And you're like, okay. And you sit there and you watch this fucking shitty movie about terrible, catastrophic things happening in the future that almost invariably never happen. But think about what that does. Anybody besides me ever watch a scary movie and their heart rate started beating faster? 100%. It's a fucking movie, but it's like, boop, 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 boop. Like you get into fight or flight response. The same thing happens internally. If we're watching that terrible, shitty movie in the future, it's flooding our system in the same way, right? So that's the first way that we do it. The second way we do it, and I see this so much in our industry and in our game, is we put ourselves down. And the primary way we do that is by comparing ourselves to other people. Well, fuck, like Mark, he just figured out that probate shit and he's just like crushing it, man. I'm not doing that. Fuck. Or you know what, Greg, he made $317,000 on a flip. Like, I wish I could do that. Or fucking Jose with his social shit. We're just comparing ourselves to other people and we put ourselves down, right? Which again is a form of eye-jabbing. So we scare the shit out of ourselves. We put ourselves down by comparing ourselves to other people. We get mired in regret. Okay, mired in regret. And this is, I should have said it this way. I should have done this. I should have done that. And what you end up doing is shoulding all over yourself. The fourth one is I cling to resentment. Fucking, this person didn't choose me as their coach or their sponsor. And I'm going to continue to be uptight and pissed off until they say they're sorry. Where the Buddha said like however many years ago that resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And then this fifth one is you trap yourself in a concept of the way that you think you are supposed to be, right? Of like what I feel like I should be doing. So I'll give you an example. Like I was doing a piece of work with this woman. She's a hard-charging agent. And she said something on a call to me. She was like, you know, I'm the kind of woman that believes I should cook for my husband every night. Meanwhile, she's trying to do like 70 deals a year, okay? And I was like, that's interesting. Now, whenever anybody says I'm the kind of, or I always, or I never, what are they doing right in front of you? 100%, brother. They're hypnotizing themselves. Out of an infinite sea of possibilities and choices, they're telling themselves one thing. If they said that out loud to you, they said it in their head millions of times. They're just hypnotizing themselves right in front of you. So I was like, okay, well, where did you get that idea? And she stopped and thought about it. She's like, well, my mom. I was like, okay. So walk me through that, like what happens? But she was like, no, but I do enjoy like cooking and stuff. Like it's part of my love language, like I like it. I said, okay, well, let's walk through it. Let's imagine for a moment, I had her close her eyes. Let's imagine for a moment, you get home from a full day. You prospected, you did all the work, you did all that stuff, and you're tired. And now you're walking into the kitchen. Like, are you physically somewhere where you can walk into your kitchen? She's like, yep. I'm like, all right, walk in. And imagine you have this thing, this thing on your backpack. I have to do this. I have to cook a meal. So she starts to walk around. I'm like, okay, make your breathing shallow and quick, like create lots of tension internally. What am I helping her to do? Move herself to the uptight end of the continuum. And showing the observer that she has control over doing that. And she doesn't realize that. I don't need to tell her that because the observer gets it. So doing this, I said, what are you noticing? She's like, oh man, I'm getting lots of tension. Like my breathing's starting to get in quick. And I'm like, all right, what is your grandma telling you? Like, you have to do this. You have to do this. So I actually had her say it out loud. So walk around your kitchen, scrunched up. I have to do this. I have to make a meal. I have to make a meal. I have to make a meal. Fuck, I gotta make a meal. Gotta make it do this. Oh. And then I had her do that for like a minute or two. And I asked her a question. Tell me this, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid that if I don't make the meal, he'll just have a can of tuna fish. And I'm like, okay. And what are you afraid will happen then? She's like, well, if he can just eat a can of tuna fish and he's happy with it, what does he need me for? I was like, you're giving a lot of meaning to a can of tuna fish. Right? It's a tremendous amount of meaning that you're giving to that can of tuna fish. Right? And then what ended up happening is she's like, so what this is about, it's about taking what you like and leaving what you don't. So what about this don't you like? Well, I don't feel like this thing where it was self-imposed, like I have to, I feel trapped. But there's also part of me where I like to. There's a part of me where I enjoy it, right? But what was really underneath it is a fear. that if I don't do this, I won't receive love, right? And I have to do this in order to receive love. But helping someone to become self-aware of that, it's exceptionally helpful because now she can regulate where she is on the imaginary continuum. Does that make sense? All right. Now, these are all forms of attachment, by the way, which the Buddha said that all suffering comes from attachment. So scaring yourself about terrible, catastrophic images in the, like, of things that could happen in the future, potentially, what is that an attachment to? Showing yourself terrible, catastrophic movies about shit that can happen in the future, what is that an attachment to? Uncertainty, loss. It's an attachment to outcomes in the future, that they need to be a certain way. Putting yourself down, comparing yourself to other people, what is that an attachment to? How you see yourself, self-image. And again, I need to perform this way in order to receive what? Love.
I have a guy who's a mentor in my life. He's an agent. He's doing it for a workhorse. So he did what I did for twice as long. That 150, 200 homes a year, just pounding it out. But he's in his 60s now. Worth a lot of money. Net worth wise, he makes a lot of money residually. And he's going through a transition that I went through, but I'm 20 years younger than him. So now he's asking me questions about it, which is interesting. Like, what is your schedule like? Is that weird that like you aren't doing those regimented activities, you know, whatever? What is interesting is I talked to him about like spending with a joyful heart. That is a biblical thing, or giving with a joyful heart. Because not only will you do that, but you also give a bunch of money away simultaneously.
That freaks Celia out.
I understand how it freaks her out, because when you first told me that you did that, it freaked me out, and I'm not even close to you or married to you.
There's a family that struggles financially, and they go to our school. I'm like, we should give her like $5,000.
And you just do it. That's the joyful heart thing. And what he told me, what Neil said, which was interesting, is that even though money's been such a defining thing in his life, he told me like in 2020, when he recognized that like everybody was like having a hard time, he started automatically tipping like 20% more than what he normally would. He started automatically like giving, and he's like, and it's what's interesting is I heard this said in a biblical context. It's the only place where God says to challenge him. The only one. Everywhere else he's like, don't challenge me. But on giving part, he's like, just challenge me. But you embody that. I feel like I know
I'll give like a 100% tip.
You will, right? Freaking out, right? But you really are.
This $100 means way more than that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's true about it is your identity is not wrapped into it, and it doesn't have any control over you. A lot less than most. I'm sure it controls a little bit, like you sometimes think about it, but like you're like, that's like of the world type stuff, and you have it, so like.
But having the overhead too, I mean, I have a pretty big overhead with the coaching.
You do?
You know, because I haven't cracked the code on organic.
On what?
Organic.
Oh, traffic. So you have to spend money.
So I'm spending $20,000 a month on this.
Wow. Are you really?
Some months 30. It sucks now with the election.
Because you're paying so much for the ads.
Yeah, because I'm competing against
and Harris, yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because I feel like the island shrinking in a way where we are in the cycle of real estate. Less people are participating, 3.8 million deals, which Leo said it's the lowest it's been in 15 years. But I think that joyful heart thing is interesting. And I'm increasingly like moving in that direction. It takes time to not idolize it. Because I think if I'm being authentic, is like in the past, like I idolized it. And I gave it way more power than it has. You know what I mean? Like the question is like from that book, Not a Fan. He's like, what do you get excited about? When things aren't working out, where do you go? You know what I would do if my business, like if I took less listings in a week than whatever, I'd look at money in the, like I'd go there to give me rest. It's like, it's the wrong place, bro. It's not the right, you're looking in the wrong place.
Do you have any quality of life sort of things that you do, like do you hire maid or
we got someone that comes in. That's the easiest trade.
It makes total sense to do it.
We have someone come in for 5 hours 3 times a week.
You do? Now?
And I can hardly wear I can only wear 2 pairs of underwear, 3 max, because they're cleaned like I'm right in.
Yeah.
And the ones I like are right on top.
Right on top. It's the only ones you wear anyway. It's like magic. Yeah. I think it's an issue of time. It goes back to that.
Well, we pay our girl $20 an hour.
Yeah. Well, and I told Carla, because we had somebody who comes in and If at first it was like frequency, and it's really me because I was like being small about it. I'm like, all right, we'll have them come like every other week. I understand how it can make you feel like in control perhaps or like needed. But like, that's not your highest and best use, dude. Well, and then Carla, she would come to me, and this is interesting for those who have significant others, but like, she would come to me and be like, hey, like, and I'm working and I'm doing all this stuff. She's like, well, I need your help with this stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying like I'm above that, but it's definitely not my highest and best use. I have a very particular set of skills that allows me to do like a lot in an area. Well, here's what I told her. I'm going to now have somebody come frequently and I don't want to hear about it anymore. And that solved the problem. He's like, first and foremost, to get to 100, it's going to come from listings, period, end of story. Second of all, and this is going to be real complicated. I need you to take notes. I'm like, all right. He's like, you got to wake up at the same time every day. He's like, get to the same time every day to the office. Pick up the phone at the same time every day. Do that for 3 hours a day. You will be a smashing success in this business. Because when you look at the numbers that Leo said, 76% of agents up until June of 2024 hadn't sold one of their own listings. That means 20-something% of the population is listing all the properties, which is where all the leverage is. And only 1.4% of all agents had done more than 30 transactions a year. That's bananas, bro. That's it. More than 30. So it shows the anomaly of doing 100, 150, 60, whatever it is. Like, you know, you might be doing 60 and think like, oh man, because you're looking at people doing 100. I'm like, dude, only 1.4% of the whole population of agents does more than 30 transactions a year. There's a difference between being competitive and being ambitious. So competitive is about comparison. That's fascinating.
Competitive about what?
Is about comparing, right? So part of the reason why you're like, oh, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You're competitive. So what were you doing? Comparing to other people. What ambitious is where I have a love of learning. So he gave an example that in a Netflix documentary, they showed quarterbacks. They showed Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, and Mahomes. Kirk Cousins is extremely competitive, right? The thing about competitors is that oftentimes what they'll do, like Kirk Cousins will have 2 really awesome games and then a really poor game, right? And Kirk Cousins hasn't won any rings, by the way. And they did in the documentary where they showed where Kirk Cousins, he has like a room of me, like his trophy room. And he pulled out like something his high school coach said about him. And he read it and he's like, yeah, that's still me. That's interesting. He hadn't changed and evolved at all. He's just, but he's competitive. Where Mahomes is ambitious. Mahomes is like, he's making up throws, bro. He's throwing sideways. He's like left on. He's like, and he's constantly evolving. What's interesting is when you watch them play, who has more fun? Way more fun. Who has more rings? 3 and counting. So when I looked at that, I was like, oh, so when you first met me, I was more competitive, yes?
Yeah.
And what have I become? More ambitious, yes?
I remember when we sat down,
Yeah.
I remember the number, but you were like, oh yeah, I'll be fine if I get to this number. Like you 10x that shit already.
Right. So, but, and now what's happening is because of that ambition, I'm having way more fun. So I think the sweet spot is a mixture of like competitive without comparing, perhaps as much comparing, where you're playing your own game. I'm just competing against like maybe myself or my own metrics, where maybe the game changes to time. How much time could I save instead of like how much money can I make? And it's independent of what other people think or do. But then being more heavily weighted towards ambition, which is a love of learning. And I think in doing that, like I was telling Natalie, she's like, I think it's crazy that like they asked you to be on a panel to talk about media. Because I would just hammer people on how silly that was or dumb it was. But what I told her is like, huh?
She was saying.
Yeah. She's like, I think it's crazy that you're on that panel. And what I told her is that like, I take the responsibility. Like Carla tells me in our family life, she's a very strong, aggressive female. She's like, I have no problem with you leading, but you have to lead. Right? So, and sometimes I don't like that because it puts pressure on me, but it forces me to do it. Right? Well, what I told her is like, not only am I a leader in my family, but like to all the people who've decided to partner with us, it's a really big responsibility to lead. So I need to be ruthlessly, constantly in pursuing the truth and what is true, learning it so I can give it back to other people. But that's that ambitious piece. And now I'm no longer competing with Brian and feel the need to compete with him, where now it's more like equipping him with all the tools that you need. Isn't that an interesting distinction? Because my life was like way smaller when I was purely competitive. And I was like, rah, but it was more, my impact was way more. It's just selfish.
What changed for you to see that though?
I think, to Lars's point, part of it is reaching, like, let's say you had a mountain off in the distance and you hit the mountain, but then it's not really like fulfilling as you thought it would. A perfect example of this would be like, I did a triathlon with Carla. It was a while ago. And we trained for a long time. It's like this whole thing. And I had two observations when I came across the finish line. The first, there's a picture of me coming across the finish line with Carla. I'm like this. Everybody that's lining up along the finish line is looking in the other direction because they're looking for their person. So that was like this interesting awareness, like, oh, nobody cares. This, like, literally nobody cares. The second thing that was super aware to me was that when I crossed the finish line, nothing happened. Like, no, like, balloons dropped. Nobody treated me differently. I had the same experience where I had a financial goal in my life to hit like a net worth of like $1 million. But when I hit it, nothing changed. The guy still flipped me off when he crossed. Like if I, pull up in the road, nobody gives me preferential treatment at Starbucks. They're like, bro, you're cutting me. Like, get out of the way. So it becomes this weird thing where you realize like these things that like the world tells you to pursue competitively actually don't really mean that much. So we live in an economic planet where I want to make sure that I can provide for like it says in the Bible, a man who does not provide for his own, specifically those in his house, is worse than an infidel. It's worse than an unbeliever. Like, that's my command, right?
Really said that?
Yeah, absolutely says that. And it says a good man, ready, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. That's like a command. That's not like if you want to. That's like an instruction. Like, I want to get my orders from headquarters, not from like here. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and when it goes back into a bit, it's a long way to answer your question, but the first two sins were not in the world. It was actually in heaven, where there were three archangels. One of them was Lucifer, who was the angel of worship. And he was beautiful. He was the most beautiful thing on the planet. Like a beautiful thing in heaven. Shimmered. Well, he got a glimpse of himself. And the first sin was born. Do you know what it is? Pride. What is competition? Pride. Look at me. Yes? What that led to is the second sin. Because once he was like, look how beautiful I am. Pride was born. The second sin that was born was rebellion against God. Because he started to be like, yo, why are we listening to this guy? Yeah, so that's why it's interesting, because, on our calls, that's why I push you so much.
Yeah.
Because it's a command from God, bro. It's not like whether what I want to do.
I've never heard it that way. I know about the providing word in a command. It's just what is the intention?
We talked about that.
That's what I'm like.
Yeah, we're business owners. Yeah, we all own, like, as you start to do deals, you own stock. Like, this is like a group of owners getting together.
Badass.
That's badass, right?
Badass. Really cool.
So is your focus going to be like production? Is it attraction, or is it both?
I'm definitely going to stay in my lane for sure.
Yeah.
Taking listings,
Yeah, doing your thing.
That's what I do. But I appreciate the opportunity here that it allows me to also do that alongside of it without taking away. Like at KW, like if you really wanted to recruit agents, like you're recruiting agents. Like that's what you do.
Yeah.
Like I know it.
Yeah.
But if I can attract agents and we can start doing the social media,
Which you can.
start doing things and that's alongside of it.
Yep.
That's sweet.
And then
this provides
the opportunity
to do that.
And you have
You're
an
a prime example.
Yes.
Prime example.
And then you have an operational partner in that EXP handles all of the brokerage component.
Right.
And then you dump them into our ecosystem and I'll train them.
Yes.
And Jose and Lars.
Remember when we were on the call? I'm like, bro, we got Aaron, dude. Like, we're good.
Well, and and I love
we're good, bro. We got Aaron, dude. Like, if you could check an agent, you're like, okay, go talk to Aaron. Like,
yeah, we're good.
There's no way this man, whoever that agent is not dealing with Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. And what I tell our organization is like, I heard this analogy and I love it. Is let's say we were on like a special forces team. We're getting dropped into enemy territory.
Yeah.
We're on an op, right? But we get separated. And you're by yourself in the dark behind enemy lines. Your gear gets scattered.
Right.
And you see somebody coming up over the hill. You're going to have two responses to that. One response is you're going to be like, oh man, it's that guy.
Right.
The second response is you're going to be like, fuck yeah, it's that guy, bro. Hey, I am going to be okay.
You heard me say that on the call.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, we're good.
We had a private mastermind with Leo Perea, the CEO.
Yeah.
Because Leo wanted him to like, hey, I'm coming. Bro, there were hearts breaking all over town. You know what I'm saying? And what I told Jeff is the first guy I was with selling real estate. He was a small little like aggressive kind of agent. He was one of the top agents in town.
Yeah.
And when we would leave a listing appointment, he would be like, "There's gonna be hearts breaking all over Gainesville tonight."
The year is like, my son's 13, yeah, so 2010. We were doing a lot of transactions, like probably like 89, chugging towards 100. My wife's pregnant, and she happens to be our operations manager, which is dope because I don't have to pay her. I realize there's gonna be some friction, because when your operations manager is pregnant and about to have a child, and I don't have anybody else to help me, that creates a problem. And yet I was resisting fixing the problem. Anybody besides me ever know they need to do something and they resisted doing it? Yeah, see lots of heads nodding. Yeah. What I was doing was two things. The first one was stalling. I knew there was something that needed to be done, but I was afraid. The second one, for anybody who speaks Spanish, I was being tacaño, which is another way of saying what? Cheap! I didn't want to spend any money. Do I have any other cheapskates in the room? Yes? Everybody should be raising their damn hand, okay? And I didn't know what to do. I knew something needed to be done, but I didn't know what to do. So what I did is and it also wasn't acceptable for me to go backwards, for me to do less. So what I did is I went out and got a really good guide, somebody who had already been through that before, to ask him, what should I be doing right now? He said, the first thing is if you want to stay married, you need to hire somebody, okay? And then he gave me SOPs on how to hire that person. He gave me guidance on what to pay them, right? And now I no longer worry about things like that, as we have an organization that's in 15 states with multiple different staff members and people that help us, and a payroll that's over 6 figures. If you understood what was keeping you stuck, you could accomplish anything that I have in probably less time. We're gonna go over the 5, what I call the 5 assassins of success, or let's say the 5 assassins of progress. With the goal and objective being that once you can identify which ones or which group of assassins are getting in your way, you can unlock that unleash and get your unfair share of the business. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, am I in the right room? Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. That's better, okay? High energy equals high income team. You've never met somebody who's like, aye, who makes a lot of money, I promise. Okay. So as this says here, first of all, this is the good shit, not the bullshit. Most people teach mindset because they can't teach tactics. Okay? They'll sit in a room and be like, you know, you're mine. I'm like, you're an idiot. You got to show me how to do something, bro. Like, you saying like it's all mindset is like giving me a bow and arrow and being like, go fight that war over there. You see what I'm saying? You got to equip me with what I need, right? First, let's define what we're trying to do here. Success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or objective. Notice, there's some key things in this definition. Progressive. Does that mean immediate? No. How many of us get pissed off because it doesn't happen right away? Yeah. Yeah, all the time, right? It says progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. Okay? Being the best drug dealer in town is not a worthwhile goal. Right? A worthwhile goal or objective. Progress meaning forward or onward, movement toward a destination, worthwhile, worth time, money, effort spent, value, importance. Okay? Now, we can easily understand this. Now, how many people besides me have ever been given a plan, have it stared you right in the face, and did nothing with it? Yeah. Why do you think that is? You think it's because you're not smart?
I'm patient.
Oh, he said thinking.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure, okay. What if I told you that we're not thinking beings that feel, we're feeling beings that think?
Yeah.
What emotions get in the way from you taking action? Name them real quick.
Fear.
Fear, that's one. What else?
Laziness.
No, what else? It's not an emotion.
Fear.
Insecurity. How many people have ever hesitated about posting something because you didn't like the way you looked? Everybody should be raising their hand. You understand? It's not the technical work of how to do something that stops you. It's not knowing that you need to do something that stops. It's something internal. Is this making sense to you? Okay. The bottleneck of any business is the psychology of its owner, including mine. The bottleneck of any business is the psychology of its owner. Okay? So, let's get into these assassins. This first one is called the staller. Drags their feet when opportunities come knocking. Okay? You get invited to go do a talk. What is your initial response? I don't know, bro. Somebody invites you like, yo, this listing that's like you've never listed that price. You're like, can somebody come with me? You could attend an event, make an important contact, get on a big stage, digital or physical, to get to a bigger audience, get asked to be on a podcast, speak at an event, attend an event, with leaders around. When opportunities pop up for the staller, they never take them and they never say no. Here's my question. What emotion keeps people stuck here? Fear. So what I was doing, this one used to plague me all the time. So even though my wife is pregnant, I know it's coming, and yet I'm doing nothing. I'm stalling. The staller won't let you make big decisions. I made a decision, guys. I sold back my interest in a company and lost $42,000, and I had to cap twice because I had 17 pendings. Do you know that this industry is set up that's basically contractual arbitrage? They know you don't read ICAs. You don't even know what that stands for, most of you guys. Independent contractor agreements, you don't even read them. They know that. And as such, what they do, they also know that 65% of you, okay, haven't, money's a thing. So they're like, what can we do to keep people from not going, leaving? Let me keep some of their money if they leave. And they don't even realize because they didn't even read it. Isn't this fantastic? But it stops you from making, if I had allowed the staller to stop me from making this decision, we wouldn't be at 325 agents. Does that make sense? The second assassin that gets in the way is called the speed demon. The speed demon makes you believe that you progress by making decisions as quickly as possible. You hire the first person that's standing next to you, your aunt, your uncle, whoever. Oh, I need somebody. I'm in pain. This is stressful. You're a body that is breathing. Come work with me. Really fast, right? And then they forcefully, they try to pick technology and make it work because they picked it really fast. They didn't do any homework. They picked a CRM and they're like, rah, this is going to be great. I always love it when you just get overexcited about CRMs. I'm like, you realize it's not going to help you do any more business, right? You have to actually talk to people. Never taking the time to reflect on the mistakes that they're making. And then they say things like, there's no good help. You can't find good people. You know what they're really saying? I have no system for finding good people. I just hire whoever's standing next to me at the time. And I never reflect. Pain plus reflection equals progress. You know what the problem is? We never take the time to reflect. Speed demon ensures that you keep making mistakes. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. And if anybody wants to volunteer, it's cool. Is there a mistake that you keep making? What is it?
Not following up.
With?
Prospects.
Okay, so you keep making that mistake. And what is the story that you're telling yourself around follow-up?
I need new business. Go find someone else. They're not ready yet.
Got it. So underneath it is a fear that there's not enough. Did you come from an environment where there's not enough? Are you afraid of that in any way? Are you afraid of like resources and needing to gather them and hoard them up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we all are to some degree. So what I'm aware of is that fear of there not being enough and having to gather up the resources is causing me to ignore the follow-up. Meanwhile, 70% of all the appointments will come in what?
Follow-up.
Follow-up. But because I'm so like, I gotta go find, I'm ignoring it. So the next one is the supervisor. The supervisor won't allow you to delegate things. You'll hire a TC, but then you'll end up doing the TC's work for them. He's like, don't look at me, bro. Right? You have a full-time assistant, but you take tasks away from them versus letting them do their job. Can you see how this would impede progress? Because by the way, what do we get paid to do in this business? I know there's other businesses, but in this business, the value chain, what do we actually get paid to do? Yeah. Prospect, which leads to?
Appointments.
Yeah. Lead follow-up, which leads to? Going on appointments, which leads to? Negotiating deals, which leads to? Guys, I need you to be very clear. That is the only thing you get paid to do. Anything else that you're convincing yourself you get paid to do is not accurate. Ta-da, you notice the energy in the room? You're like, damn it. I like going to, be with the videographer when he takes the pictures. I'm like, why are you a professional photographer? What exactly are you doing there? I go to the home inspections. Why, are you a home inspector? What are you doing there? How long could somebody stay with the supervisor wreaking havoc on them? A whole lifetime, bro. This gets in the way, the supervisor. Hovering. Here's the next one. The saver. Yep. This one affects the entrepreneur who is only saving money and not reinvesting in themselves or their business. They're stashing away a nest egg. Yep. They never invest in courses, never invest in classes, never invest in staff. Okay? Once the saver gets a hold of you, you created a false sense of security by holding a nest egg because you got a little money in the bank. Right? But our business is constantly changing and evolving. Do you know when I realized, okay, how many people besides me realize that media is a thing? Like it's like important. You should be paying attention to it. Yeah, everybody collectively realized that. How many people besides me, like I was 2 years ago, have no idea how to actually do it? Yeah, everybody's hand should be raised because you all have like 2,000 followers, okay? It's a fact. So he's like, yeah, it's true. So I realized the same thing. I knew how to sell real estate in high volume, but I didn't understand media, but I knew it was important. See, because our boy here said when he was invited here, the person that invited me he had a relationship with, you know the second thing he said was, I know that guy. I have seen him. That's the power of media, right? The saver tells you to save money, right? Save your money, which costs time. You agonize over a $100 purchase that could save you 10 hours. Do you know when I was in high volume selling real estate, like people be like, yo, we need condo docs. I pay somebody $100 to go get it and take it wherever they need to go versus me getting in the car. Do you realize what we did with lock boxes? Because what would happen is we'd have to pay somebody to go put it on and pay somebody to take it off. My wife, who's a genius, she said to me, hey, if we buy them on Amazon in bulk, they're only $10, and at closing, we'll just leave them there. Agents call me like, hey, you coming to walk through? Nope. What do you want me to do with this lockbox? It's my gift to you.
Take it. Like that idea.
Right? But the saver tells you like, no. You gotta like not spend the money, which ends up costing you time. You agonize over small purchase. You agonize over hiring a transaction coordinator. It costs $400 a file. It'll save you like 15 hours of your life that you could be prospecting and finding more deals or shooting content or whatever. Right? It just doesn't make sense. It's an employee mentality. It's like a lower vibration, right? Now, the last one assassin that gets in the way is the self-medicator. The self-medicator pushes you to self-sabotage to celebrate and to self-sabotage to escape. So to celebrate, you have a really good month. You know what you do? Have a big meal, have a couple drinks, mess around, right? Go out. Yeah, we're celebrating, babe. Yeah. And then that screws up a week. Then when things don't go your way, guess what you go back to? I had a tough month. I need a drink. I need to go eat, feel better. So what does that do to people? What roller coaster do they end up on? And how much does this impede progress? Tremendously. Because you're up here and you're high and then you're like boom and you're bringing yourself back down, you're doing all this other stuff, it's throwing you off your schedule, you can't be consistent, right? Then when things aren't going good, you go back to that, which only makes it worse. Do you understand? The self-medicator sneaks up on you in the form of celebration. A night of celebration can easily turn into sleeping late, robbing you of your progress. Do you know I didn't have a TV in my house for 12 years? Do you think I was focused? Yeah. I didn't have any hobbies, bro. There's no fantasy football. No, like, chilling, dialed in. Because if you'll spend, I started when I was 26, I'm 43 now. You could literally, in this vehicle, work for 18 years, never have to work again a day in your life. But how serious are you about that? Like, well, I don't know. Right? So not only do we have like spurts of cash in this business, because most of you guys don't prospect regularly.
I think complacency.
Okay, interesting. In what way?
Complacency, like for instance, like you have a month that you'll make really good money.
What's really good to you? Whatever you say is fine. I'm just generally
Most
interested.
I've made?
Yeah.
37.
Okay, it's okay.
1,000
Yeah.
in 1 month.
Yeah. And now here's what's true. I think that's, how old are you?
22.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic for being 22. Everybody would agree? Look, boys was like, bro. All right. So, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form egotistical. If I made that amount of money in a month, it wouldn't be a good month. So what happens is what leads to complacency is I know at 22, you are the fastest, quickest, strongest, and you make the most money of all your peers. So do you know what that means? They all buy your bullshit. You have nobody around you that's like, bro, what are you doing? No, that is not acceptable. You could be doing twice that amount. Or no, after you made all that money and I'm going to be playful, but I know that generation, they make that much money and they go on a trip to Costa Rica for 3 weeks. I'm like, no, that is not the fucking answer. In movies, whenever a man has a problem, where does he always end up?
Bar.
Isn't that weird? That's the message that we get. And in all of the messaging, when people are celebrating, what's present? Isn't that interesting? I think that's fascinating. And that ends up impeding. Do you see? Now the challenge is for you, and I'm sorry, your name?
Kevin.
Kevin, what I would propose, this is my suggestion, whether it's me or anybody else, you need very strong male role models in your life. Because what will end up happening with the amount of money that you're making, if you're not careful and you're around the wrong people, it will not lead to good things. If you want to see somebody's true character, you know what you give them access to? Money, sex, and power. Does that make sense? So you need strong, in my opinion, faith-centered male role models as a guide. I'm wondering, are you guys a little bit more clear on what exactly is getting in your way? Now, let me hear some actionable steps. What are you going to do with this information? Because I don't want you to leave here and be like, that was cool. What's the actionable step? What are you going to do?
Delegate.
Okay, that's a cute answer. Yeah, that was a politician answer. I'm going to delegate. Give me a very specific answer.
I'm going to hire a full-time assistant.
Okay, and by when? Ah, the hesitation.
End of the month.
Yeah.
Just kidding. By the end of next month.
But yeah, because I'm going to say at the end of the month. So this is beautiful, and I'm glad we're being playful, but there's also a little truth in that. Because you notice, you see what's coming up, the staller, the saver, like you're watching it happen. He knows, he's a smart person. He knows everything I said to him is true. But what did I tell you before? Emotions trump facts. So what I would suggest to you is like, if you recognize this, you see what's happening. I would be thinking about strategically, how could I recoup more of the money that I'm earning so I can reinvest it in an assistant? That's a strategic move. Then I would also want, who could I get proximity to that could help me systems-wise, CRM-wise, to get that set up? Then hire somebody. But I would also try to make that happen as fast as possible. Because legitimately, based on what you shared and what you're doing, you could be doing, no lie, no BS, twice that amount with an assistant in place. Like we were carrying 15 to 20 listings at a given time, 15 to 20 pendings. I didn't talk to any of the pendings when they were under contract. Very rarely, because I had the right person in place. I never inputted any listings. So here's what I'm gonna say, right? This is a quote, right? So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. The most repeated verse in the Bible is don't be afraid. The second most repeated verse is I am with you, and the third most repeated verse is God is good. What is interesting is what everybody said here, the thing that was stopping them was fear. Nothing to sneeze about. What everybody said here is the thing that is stopping them is fear. You're not made in the image of something that cowers. Yeah, right? We say that, we'll sit in a place, but we don't act that way. We get 27,550 days on the planet. 75 years in the industrialized world, women have a tendency a little bit more than men. I'm 43, that means I've used more than half. Whatever's left, I'm gonna sleep through a third of it. If you sleep 8 hours a day, it's a third of a day. All that is to demonstrate is it's not that much. So why are you waiting to go after what you actually want? If you realized how quickly people forget that you were here, 100 years from now, everybody in this room will be dead and everybody who knows this will be dead, right? The only thing that makes you not qualified for what you want is your unwillingness to learn. So if you sat here and you're like, that was dope, that was cool, and you don't create that system, you're gonna stay the same. And what'll happen is you'll settle for low-level significance. Low-level people telling you you're the man. My hope is that this would be helpful to you in some way and that you can take that action. If you need help or assistance in doing that, like reach out to us because that's what we're here to do. It's me that answers the DMs. It's me that gets back to people, right? And we're here to help you guys. So at the beginning of my real estate career, I was selling real estate in Gainesville, Florida, which if you've ever been there, outside of the university is a very sleepy, hollow town. Once you get outside the university, it's just cows and churches. Not as though there's anything wrong with cows and churches, but that's all there is. The broker that I decided to partner with at the time, they had a boot camp that you had to go through before they would let you in to the company. And it consisted of 2 weeks of sales training. You know, things like contacts equals contracts and making calls and things of that nature. And it culminated in a listing presentation that you actually had to give in front of all of the rest of the company. And they partnered you with another new agent. For those of you who may not know me, I am somebody who's very motivated by significance, and I'm also incredibly, disgustingly competitive, right? So I wanted to win. I wanted to be the absolute best of the whole presentation in front of the whole company, right? So I took it super seriously. And they told us to print out this information about like their listing presentation, their marketing thing and everything was like these pieces of paper. And they told us to go to Office Depot and to print it out and to get a flip chart so we could present it. And they gave us a script, right? So I dutifully went to Office Depot, printed it all out, got my flip chart, ready to rock, got my script, and I went home to my wife, Carla, and said, hey, we need to start role playing. Not that type of role play, but we need to start role playing, okay? And she's like, okay, cool. So we start practicing. And I'm diligently practicing, like, you know, all day, all night. And it comes the big day. It's time to present. So my partner is a all shucksy kind of guy, you know, like a grandpa-ish kind of guy. And he goes first, and it's embarrassing. He clearly did not prepare, okay? He was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, okay? And he stumbled through the presentation. It was very clear that he didn't practice at all. Now I show up, I'm the only person wearing a suit. Now, it's from the Dead Man collection, and let me explain what I mean by that. The first suit that I ever bought, I bought it in an estate sale because I had no money. And a guy died who happened to be my shape and size. So I'm going through the, I swear to God, it's a true story. Going through the closet at the estate sale. I look at my wife, I'm like, suit's pretty nice. Bought the suit for 20 bucks. Add a little pocket square there, let's go. So forever and ever, it'll always be from the Dead Man collection. First suit ever got, right? So I show up dressed fresh like $1,000,000, got my little pocket square in there, and now it's my turn to present. And because I had spent a lot of time doing what? And preparing, I was able to get through it. Now, it wasn't perfect, okay? Because I'd only spent, 48 hours practicing. But I took it really seriously. And in my mind, I was so worried and concerned, like, oh my God, what if he asked me how much my commission is? Anyone besides me have ever been worried or concerned about that? Yeah, more hands should be going up. What if they say, I've never heard of your company before? Anybody ever been worried about that? Yeah. Anybody on the way there, you're like, holy shit, I hope they don't ask me that. I hope they don't ask me that, right? It's happened to you before, right? So I'm all concerned, but like this guy didn't even prepare for the damn presentation. So he just doesn't ask me anything. So I'm like, whew, right? But I never forgot that. Because the money is not in the service. The money's in the selling of the service. And if you want to get paid like a professional, you need to practice like one. There is only, out of 20,000 agents in the multiple listing service, that is rapidly going down right now, by the way, guys. People are getting jobs driving Uber, working at restaurants, because when times get tough, only the skilled get paid. So there's, out of 20,000 agents in the multiple listing service, there's only 100 that do 20 million in volume, myself included. That's it. You have 20,000 people competing for 100 jobs. How would you practice if you were competing for one of those jobs?
Try to be the best.
Trying is a degree of effort that's accompanied by an excuse. If you really wanted to compete for one of those jobs, not just fuck around. Not just treat this like a vending machine that when you make a few bucks, you go to Costa Rica and post it on Instagram. So since that boot camp, I have spent 10,000 hours in role playing practice. I've gone on thousands of listing appointments. And I've spent probably $400,000 and counting in my own personal growth and development, getting access to the best teachers, the best trainers, the best mentors. And now I no longer am at all concerned as to what somebody might say to me on a listing presentation. I no longer sweat on my way there. Oh my God, I hope they don't ask me that. And now I actually get paid to present and teach people how to present. And I really do believe, I truly do, that everybody in this room with the right blueprint, the right mindset, and the right skills, guys, you can list as many properties as I have, if not more. Right? I've spent the last 17 years of my career selling 2,000 properties. I know, you can raise your eyebrows, that's a lot. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to go over with you the listing presentation. The exact presentation that I've used to list hundreds of properties a year. It's broken down into 3 separate sections. And then we're going to go over some frequently asked questions, common objections. So that way you're fully prepared. Guys, because when we go from 6 million transactions in a calendar year to a projected 3.8 million, that means there are more people competing for the same opportunities. And if you don't have a competitive advantage, you don't compete, right? I'll tell you a real quick story. So I remember going on a listing appointment at the beginning of my career. It was somewhere in like Coral Springs. It was an expired listing. And I knew that they had 3 appointments scheduled that day, right? One at like 12, one at like 2, and then me at 3:15, 3:30. So I show up at 2:30 and I knock on the door. What do you think happened to that agent that was sitting there? Start shitting their pants. Owner comes out, pokes their head out. They say, oh, well, I'm sorry. We have an agent here. Would you mind waiting outside? I said, that's no big deal. I'll just wait in the living room. Are you that confident in your presentation? Then the guy leaves. I sit down. Husband looks at me. He's like, that was stone cold. And then he signed the listing agreement. So when times get tough, only the skilled get paid. We really need to dial this in. If there are less opportunities, I need to make sure there's no security in this business. There's only opportunities. So if I get my skills to such a degree that if I present, there's an 85% chance I'll earn the business, I've just created security for myself and my family. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, we're in the wrong room. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. Good. According to the Association of Realtors, the average agent who who goes on 100 listing presentations will only take 20 listings. Why do you think that is?
Not prepared.
Not prepared. They're like that grandpa guy, just going in there, yeah, winging it. Showing up with flip-flops and khakis. No presentation. They're like, oh my God, you have a puppy? I have a puppy. We should be best friends. 20 listings, 15 sales, 150 grand a year. I don't know why you guys think this is a lot of money. Let's do the math on this. 150, you have taxes, don't you? Mm-hmm. About 50 grand. Now you got 100. You got business expenses, don't you? How much are those? 20, 30 grand? Yeah. Now you're at 70. You got a rent or your mortgage payment, car payment. You want to take one nice trip a year. How much money's left over? Zero! And no government can help you with that. You have to earn your way out of it. So if I go on 100 listing appointments, I take 85, that's, oh my God, look at the difference. 80 listings, 70 sales, $700,000. Same appointments, same time. What's the difference? Skills, bro. Skills pay the bills. Skills pay the bills. Again, that key phrase, you want to get paid like a professional, you need to practice like one. Amateurs practice until they can get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. I should be able to wake you up in the middle of the night and be like, bro, give me your listing presentation. And you're like, hi, my name is Aaron, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And you just run right into it. Or I should be able to bump into you in the hallway and be like, hey, your commission's too high. No hesitation. Not like, ha, 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 oh, I'm not ready. Let me get back to YouTube and shit. Boom, you go right into it. Because guys, these conversations are worth 10, 15, 20,000 bucks. It's immature to not be prepared. There's 3 separate sections of the listing presentation. From the time you hit the door till the time you start to talk about price. Then there's the pricing portion of the listing presentation. Then there's handling objections and closing. Okay? It's a map. You just follow it. Now, I'm curious. Let's say you got on a plane and the pilot said, you know what? We're not going to go with the checklist today. We're just going to wing it. Would you get on that plane? No. Imagine you went to a surgeon. Surgeon has a checklist. They're like, you know what? We're just going to bypass the checklist today. I got this shit. I'm just going to wing it. Would you be okay with that? Why are you guys okay with going on listing presentations and winging it? It's the same thing, right? And people are going to say yes. It typically takes 7 no's before somebody says yes. And somebody's going to be in control. I want it to be me. So what do I mean by that? How do we incorporate this into the first section? So if you're taking notes, put like from the time I hit the door till the time I start to talk about price. Okay? From the time I hit the door, time I start talking about price. So the moment that you hit the door, all of this is crafted and scripted. So the first thing that I would remind you guys to do, because you're all serious and shit, is to smile when you knock on the door. I had to remind myself to do that. Because I used to be like, here to do business. Right? So you knock on the door, they open the door, you're like, hi, Aaron Novello, nice to meet you. Did you want me to take my shoes off? Why would I say that to them? Because I'm walking into their space. Just being respectful. And if they say yes, great, do it. I'm like, I didn't fucking want to do that, but fine. You know what I mean? But if they say, and don't have a hole in your sock, right? But if they say, no, that's cool, you're like, okay, great. What I'd like to do is take a quick look around the home. Would that be okay? Yes. Why am I doing that immediately? Nope. Taking control. Somebody's going to be in control. I want to be in control. Because if I let them be in control, there's going to be a little fucking dog running around. We're going to be sitting on the couch drinking tea like nothing's going to happen. Right? How many people say to me, sat on one of those couches, you're like fucking, yeah, it's a lovely home, yeah. Somebody's got to be in control. And they're like, no, that's cool. You can take a look around. Now what I want to start to do is I want to start to immediately start to close. You guys wait till the end to close. I don't know why. And remember, it takes 7 no's to get to 1 yes. So I want to get all those 7 in right away. So the first thing I'm going to say to them is like, well, you know, your home is really lovely, Chris. It's tastefully furnished. So I'm curious, when we have offers come in, are we going to be including the contents, or do you want to take that with you to your next destination?
Taking it with me.
Good. What just happened there? When who has offers come in? We have offers come in. It's called an assumptive close. Being assumptive is, yeah, I know. She was like, oh. An assumptive close, right? Being assumptive is a function of confidence, and confidence is a function of role play and practice. Okay? He's going to be like, no, we want to take that with us. Okay, fantastic. And then he continues to show me through, and I'm like, yeah, you know, if I remember correctly, Chris, you were kind enough to share with me that you aren't planning on making any changes or modifications before I start to bring buyers through. You just want me to help you to sell it as it is, where it is. Is that right?
That's right.
What just happened? Close number 2, right? You just want me to help you sell it as it is, where it is, right? And it's subtle like this. Notice, as I'm doing this, you all guys start to do it. No, your head, even without you noticing. As I start to bob my head, you guys are like, yeah. Right? So 2 closes. Have we talked about commission? Have we talked about my fucking snazzy marketing plan? Which, by the way, is the same as everybody else's, but don't tell anybody. We use the same photographers. Right? So then we've done those couple assumptive closes, and now it's time to sit down. Again, you need to be in control. Okay, so what I like to do is we can go ahead and take a seat here at the kitchen table. That be all right? Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up sitting on a little shitty couch somewhere, and it'll be awkward and weird. Okay? Now, in terms of where I want to sit where I'm the center. I want the people to be sitting here, right? So if husband and wife, here, so I can direct to both of them. If I'm sitting across from you, what does that create? An adversarial position. And there's a border and a boundary between me and you. Okay. Make sense?
Never thought about that?
Of course. That's what I'm here for, bro.
Psychology.
Yeah. So I want to sit here at the end, and I have the people here. So I'm the direct center of attention, right? Okay. Now, I will say, first and foremost, I just want to begin our time together, Fatima, just by saying thank you. Smiling again. For providing me the opportunity to share some information with you, potentially help you with the sale. I always like to begin these conversations just by asking a few quick questions to make sure we're on the same page. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So the first question I have, which I'm pretty positive I know the answer to, based on what you shared with me on the phone before we connected, you guys have definitely decided that you're going to sell the home. You're not interested in holding on to it or doing something else with it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Notice I said, would that be okay if I asked you questions? And she said, yes. I asked her another question. She said, yes. That's establishing a pattern of what?
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, great. And then that leads me to my second question, which I'm also pretty sure I know the answer to, is you guys want to position the property price-wise to sell. You definitely don't want to give it away. That's for sure. At the same time, you don't want to have it sit on the market for 6 or 7 months just testing the market. Is that correct?
Yes.
She said yes 3 times in a row. I know. Shit's Jedi, right? And then that leads me to my third question. I'm aware I sent you over some information in preparation for connecting. I'm sure you did some due diligence. You checked me out online. You saw track record and reviews. So have you and your family, have you guys already decided that you would like for me and my team to help you with the sale?
Yes.
Yeah. She couldn't even help it. As we're doing it, she's like, yes, yes. But what are we doing there? Look, 2 assumptive closes. Now I directly ask her if she's already decided to hire me yet. What do you guys do? Pick me, please, 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 please. Look at all my cool shit. Let me prove to you how cool I am so you could pick me. And we could be buddies. You see? Now, you're either going to say, what are her options when I ask her that question, by the way?
Yes or no?
Or?
Maybe.
Maybe. Listen, I love yeses, I love nos, I hate maybes. Okay? What's up, team? How are you? Nice to see you. So I love yeses, I love nos, I hate maybes. But I'm cool with either one because now I know what direction to take. You see, if you don't do this and you don't do a close right up front, you don't know what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. When you ask up front, they might be like, well, we're not sure yet, we're going to talk to
the other agent.
Good, now I know that. Isn't it better to know that now than to know it at the fucking end? 100%. If they say, we're not sure, we want to think it over, cool, I know that. Right? But if I don't ask up front, I want to get it out of the way. So we've closed 3 times. Remember, it takes 7 closes before we get to a yes. Typically, on average. Unless it's like your mom's sister's cousin that wants to list the property, and then they just list it. So let's say she says, no, directly, right to my face. I'm like, that's no problem. I want you to make the decision that you feel is best. I want to be clear, that is my intention, Fatima. So provided that what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident with me and my team, that we can help you get the most and do it quickly and efficiently, I have all of the appropriate paperwork with me, and I'm prepared to go to work for you today. Fair enough?
Yes.
Yeah. What happened there? She tried to tell me she's the boss. I'm like, no, you're not. Right? She's like, we're not going to do this. You know how many times people said, Aaron, I am not signing anything today. And I'm like, that's cute. I know you believe that that's true. Right? But I'm letting her know, that's my intention. And along those lines, you were kind enough to share with me that in terms of the selection process of an agent, you were looking for somebody that had a great track record, that had sold properties in this geographic area, had a really good marketing plan, and would communicate with you very well. Is there anything else you'd be looking to hear from me today that would cause you to feel comfortable and confident just to proceed and put me to work? Forecloses. Have I talked about marketing? Have I talked about commission? Have I talked about fucking that I know buyers in Venezuela? Which is horseshit, because you don't. Okay, so when I ask you that, you're like, is there anything else you would need to hear from me that would make you to feel comfortable, confident to proceed from work? Tell me commission.
What's your commission?
That's a good question. And I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you with regards to that. So it sounds as though, provided that we check off all those other boxes and we're in agreement in terms of the professional fee, which I know we will be, it won't be a reason why we don't do business. I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial to all parties. Then we'll be able to proceed and go to work. Does that sound about right?
Sure.
Yeah, what just happened? What do you guys do when she asks about the commission? Shit your pants. Oh my God, that's what I didn't want them to ask me about. You see? Cool. So you're like, okay, great. So at the culmination of our time together then, there are a few potential outcomes, right? The first, which we really seem to be moving in that direction, it's an assumptive close. We really seem to be moving in that direction is that you may decide to list your home with me. And by the way, when I say list your home with me, what is that? It's an embedded command. It's neurolinguistic programming. So when I say, at the culmination of our time together, there are a few potential outcomes. The first one is, which we really seem to be moving in that direction, is you may decide to list your home with me. Do you hear it now? Mm-hmm. It's like I'm commanding you to do it. Okay? And we're really excited to have that opportunity. Again, I have all the appropriate paperwork with me. I'm prepared to go to work for you today. The second potential outcome is there's an outside chance for whatever reason you may decide not to list the home with me. And that's okay too. Most of you guys would never say that out loud. Because you're like, oh, please. And then that leads us to the third outcome. And this was just as important as the other two, is if for any reason at all, Fatima, if I feel honestly, truly, that I wouldn't be able to help you get what you wanted in the time that you wanted, I may decide to very humbly decline the opportunity to list your home. The reason I would do that is I'd much rather earn your business with integrity, being honest and straightforward about what's reasonable and realistic, versus promising you something I know is not going to happen and not be able to deliver. And any one of those three I feel comfortable with. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. Wow. What was that, what I just did there? Nope.
You avoided them to list at a super high price.
Nope. What was it? Nope. Takeaway close. We pursue that with retreats. I'm demonstrating to you I'm completely unattached to this fucking outcome. Okay? I may decide humbly. Now, it's important how you do this. If you're like, I may decide not to take your shit, that's not going to work. You know what I mean? Notice how I did it. Like, I may decide very humbly to decline the opportunity to list your home. And the reason I would do that, and I give them the reason, I'd much rather earn your business with integrity and be honest, straightforward with regards to what's reasonable, realistic, versus promising you something I know is not going to happen, not be able to deliver. Any one of those three I feel comfortable with. By the way, how many of the agents that they're going to interview are going to say that to them? 0. Instantaneously. I remember being on a listing appointment, somebody's like, bro, we hired you because it felt like you were interviewing us instead of us interviewing you. Instead of like you guys go in there like, here's my wares. Pick me, my secrets. If you don't do 10 million in volume, your split's higher. If you don't use our ancillary services, your split's higher.
We don't actually need to monetize the agents and turn them into a product.
I was on a call with someone who was trying to present me with what he thought was a good opportunity. He's like, yeah, you'd have to sign this 10-year thing. I'm like, you realize I have the same opportunity, I have to sign anything. And I could do it anywhere.